We need to have a very important conversation about our car buying habits as rideshare drivers. One, we're gonna cover the general philosophy that I have as it relates to car buying and rideshare as a whole. Two, I'm gonna respond to some comments on a video where I compared a used Prius to a brand new Tesla and justify some of my reasoning. And then three, I'm gonna tell you when I feel like it's okay for a rideshare driver to buy a brand new car. In 2019, I bought a 2017 Volkswagen Jetta, but I didn't buy it for rideshare. Rounding up, the car cost $16,000 and I put $2,000 down and took out a loan for the rest. It wasn't until later that year that I decided to do rideshare. So rideshare wasn't even a thought in my brain when I got this car. Keep in mind that it's normal to be in debt. So when I'm having these conversations with you and I say the thing I'm about to say, which is that we should avoid debt when buying cars, and I wish I avoided debt when I bought my car, I understand that that kind of thinking isn't normal. It's normal to go into debt. It's normal to roll over the equity from your previous car into your next car. Please don't do that. But it's also normal to be broke. And I'm not talking down to anyone. I consider myself to be broke right now. I consider anyone who has debt that is not their house payment to be broke. Even that thought process is not normal. Some of you probably disagree with me, but hear me out. The overarching theme of this YouTube channel is to solve for freedom. What can we do to put ourselves in a position to do whatever we want? To me, that's what being wealthy is. Having the ability to pivot and do whatever it is you want, especially financially. And one of the biggest things that are holding back Americans in general and rideshare drivers is their car payment. This is the average monthly car payment according to credit scores. The overall average, regardless of your credit score, is $726. We haven't even talked about insurance yet. If the average rideshare driver makes $25 an hour, they will have to work an extra 30 hours just to pay for the car payment, not including the car insurance. This channel focuses on putting people in a position to pivot out of rideshare. This past winter was the hardest winter I've had with rideshare, and I'm sure many drivers feel the same. On top of that, we know that Uber and Lyft are actively decreasing driver pay options. Lyft just took away their Lux option. So anyone who bought a brand new car for Lyft Lux got really screwed. The overall goal of this channel is to solve for freedom, to make choices that decrease our dependency on Uber and Lyft so that we can go and chase the things that we really want. For me, that's becoming a full-time YouTuber someday. For you, that picture's gonna look like something else. But I'm willing to bet that your plan was never to be a rideshare driver until the day you die. So my overall question to you that I want you to think about as you're watching the rest of this video, why would you increase your bills by getting a brand new car with a $700 payment just to force yourself to have to work for Uber and Lyft more? While you think about that, I'm gonna respond to some of the comments from the Tesla video and defend myself. He says, love your videos, respect. This one is flawed though. If you want to convince drivers not to buy new, compare a new Prius versus a used Prius. There are lots of successful Prius rideshare drivers and there are lots of successful Tesla rideshare drivers. Love your channel, keep up the good work. I appreciate that. I do not think that it is flawed for me to compare any car on the market to any other car on the market when it comes to a rideshare driver who's thinking about buying a car. A rideshare driver who is thinking about buying a car has the entire market to consider. And any car in that market is up for consideration. If a driver comes to me and says, hey Tristan, I want some advice. Should I get a new Prius or should I get a new Tesla? My response is gonna be neither. I think both of those are bad options. And instead, you should get a used Prius unless you meet these qualifications that qualify you in my eyes to be able to afford a Prius, which we'll talk about later. But what does it even mean to be a successful Prius driver or a successful Tesla driver? In my eyes, anyone who has debt, their success isn't as straightforward as they would like to think it is. A lot of people agree with that because having debt is so normalized. But let's say, despite the fact that Uber and Lyft have already said they want to replace us with self-driving cars, now whether you disagree with that or agree with that isn't the point. We are working for companies who are actively trying to get rid of us and have actively tried to decrease our pay with upfront pay, getting rid of certain ride types, and by saturating the market with drivers. These are things that are real. I'm not making that stuff up. The point of the video was for me to go and grab all the Tesla drivers and say, hey, stop buying a brand new Tesla. Instead of buying a brand new Tesla, you should get a Prius. I'm going to do a comparison comparing a used Prius to a used Tesla And even then, right now, until I do more research, I'm team used Prius. But I don't think it's out of pocket for me to compare a new Tesla to a used Prius, because those are both options that are available to anyone who's trying to buy a vehicle. Similarly, 100K delivery driver says, bad comparison. New Tesla to a used Prius, that's not an apple to apple comparison. It skews the argument. Why not do used versus used the same way you didn't compare a used Tesla to a brand new Prius, because that would also skew results as well. And that's because in my comparison, I'm comparing what I believe to be the best car period for rideshare. The best car period for rideshare isn't a brand new Prius. The best car period, in my opinion, is a used Prius. So I'm going, when it's time for me to go and buy a car, I'm going to say, all right, to me, the best car period is a used Prius. I'm going to use that Prius and compare it to everything else on the market. I also want to make it clear that for about 90% of rideshare drivers, I don't ever think buying a new car is a good idea. But what's the point of me comparing a used Tesla to a brand new Prius? I think that the used Prius is better than the used Tesla for now. My opinion on that might change. I'm going to do some deeper research. The reason I compared a new Tesla, the reason I would compare any other car out there, is because the best car right now for rideshare, period, is a used Prius, not a new Prius. The new Priuses are way too expensive. They're not worth it for a rideshare driver, especially if you're going into debt for it. Please don't do that. Don't buy a $30,000 car to do rideshare when you can get a $15,000 car to do rideshare. And even if you don't want to buy an old car, did you know that on average, a new car's value decreases to 69% of the initial value? After 3 years, your car value decreases to 58% of the initial value. After 4 years, your car's value decreases to 49% of the initial value. And after 5 years, your car's value decreases to 40% of the initial value. You can see that the biggest drop in value comes after just 1 year of having that car. Now, depreciation is a weird thing. I don't talk about depreciation enough. And that's because I believe when you buy a car, you should drive it into the ground until you can't drive it anymore. And that's going to give you the best bang for your buck. You will make more money driving a car into the ground instead of selling it. But the reason why we're discussing depreciation right now is because when you're purchasing a car, you can get 69% off on a gently used car if you just buy it 1 year after it's released. Just 1 year, right? So if you don't want to buy the $15,000 Prius that's probably 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, okay, I would still recommend you buy. It's 2024 right now. If you buy a 2021 Prius, it's still going to save you significantly more money than buying a brand new Prius or a brand new Tesla. We can look at it right now. Here's a good example. This is a 2021 Toyota Prius Limited, $22,500, 16,000 miles. If you were to buy this brand new, it starts at $34,000, $35,000. This is before dealership markup, titles, taxes, tags, all of that would be attached to this. You can save over $10,000 by buying a car that is used that only has 16,000 miles on it. Now, would I buy this Prius for this amount? No. Where I'm at in life, I still think that this is too much money to invest into a car for rideshare, especially if you're going to use that to do it. My job is not to increase my expenses so that I have to go and drive more rideshare. My goal is to drive less rideshare so that I can focus on getting out of rideshare. I don't understand how anyone who has ever complained that Uber and Lyft is decreasing pay can justify buying a brand new car for rideshare when they can get a car that is just as good, that's a couple years old, that would do the same job for significantly cheaper, 40% cheaper, 50% cheaper. So mathematically speaking, I think that a rideshare driver should never buy a brand new car. However, I do think there are certain financial situations in which a rideshare driver can get a new car, but it's not going to be a financial based decision. But it's not going to matter because of the requirements that I'm going to lay out for you guys here in a second. So before I share with you who I think can qualify as a rideshare driver for buying a brand new car, we're going to quickly go through this to kind of drive home the final points. There are many indications that Americans' personal finances aren't in the best shape right now, and one of the most recent pieces of evidence comes from an auto loan delinquency rates. The latest data from Fitch Ratings shows that 6.1% of subprime borrowers were at least 60 days past due on their car payments, the highest percentage since 1994. I was born in 1992, guys. I am 32 years old. This is the highest rates that we have had in 30 years. Two factors are causing an increase in late car payments: the rapid rise of car prices over the past few years and extremely high interest rates. Kelly Blue Book says the average cost of a new car was $47,899 in September, an increase of 23.6% from just 3 years ago. Making matters worse is the fact that the current interest rate for a new auto loan is 7.5%, up from 4.2% 3 years ago. When I went and signed up for a Tesla, they were giving me a 9% loan with a 670 credit score. To put all of this in plain terms, the average monthly car payment is now a staggering $725 per month. That's not including insurance. And data from Edmunds says a record of 17.5% of borrowers have a payment of $1,000 or more. Guys, my mortgage is $950, including insurance. There are people who have a Tesla, a brand new Tesla, people who have a brand new Prius that have car payments plus their insurance payments that are higher than what I am paying per month for a house. And I'm sorry to call you guys out right now. If you don't have a home, you have a brand new car, you are hurting yourself. And not just because you have a home, should you then have a brand new car, but we'll talk about the requirements in a second for who should get a brand new car if they want to have a brand new car. Let's say that I've convinced you that buying a brand new car and using debt to do it wasn't a great idea. What can you do to lower your debt? Chances are you're probably upside down in your car payment. Your car is probably worth less than you owe, and you're in real trouble. If your engine explodes, if you get in an accident and insurance doesn't want to cover you, you now have car payments on something that's not worth the amount of money you have to pay on it, right? And that induces stress. When my engine light went on in January, I was like, man, this is unfortunate, but it's okay because my car is paid off. I know that even if it's in the shop, I'm not gonna have that extra payment to think about. The amount of stress I have while driving isn't there. And I don't get frustrated with the state of the market as much as other people. And I'm starting to realize it's because my bills are a lot lower than other people. And that's by design. That's by intentionality. It took me a long time to do it. And I want that for you as well, which is why we're having this conversation. But here's what I would do. If you had $30,000 of debt, I think that it would be better for you to take out a loan for $45,000, pay off that car, have $15,000 left, and then buy a car with that $15,000 left. You would have effectively taken your $30,000 of debt and dropped it down to $15,000 in debt. The only time I'm going to tell you to get debt outside of a mortgage is if you're using that debt to decrease your overall debt, which is what you could do here. But let's talk about, when should a rideshare driver buy a brand new car? So for me, I'm never going to buy a brand new car for rideshare. I just don't think it makes sense business-wise. I'll do it in my personal life, sure, but for rideshare, I don't think so. But if you want to do it, you should have no consumer debt. It should just be your house. You should be investing 15% of your income into retirement, and you should have a 3 to 6 month emergency fund. That's the minimum. After that, you shouldn't buy a car worth more than 50% of 1 year of your income. So if you make $100,000 in a year, your car shouldn't exceed $50,000. If you make $50,000 in a year, your car shouldn't exceed $25,000, even brand new. And then the final requirement that I would put forth, which I know a lot of people are going to disagree with me on, is you shouldn't buy a brand new car until you have $1 million net worth. And that's between your retirement accounts, investment accounts, and your home's valuation. And that's because those two things are more important than buying a new car. If you disagree with that, then to me, that means you think having a new car is more important than having your house paid off. You think that having a brand new car is more important than investing into retirement. You think that having a new car is more important than having your 3 to 6 month emergency fund. And you think having a new car is more important than lowering your expenses. And I can't get behind those ideals. And I understand this information is counter to what's common in America. Please keep in mind that what's common in America is being broke and living check to check. I'm trying to do my best to stop that, That is the foundation of why I started my channel. And rideshare is just the cover story for me trying to spread that message to you guys. We need to lower our expenses. We need to pay off our debt. We need to get an emergency fund together. We need to get the cheapest car possible that's going to make us the most money, right? There's a sliding scale to that. Stop buying brand new cars. Stop rolling negative equity from your old car that you didn't pay off into the new car. Get rid of the debt on your car. I promise you, the way you think and approach life, especially rideshare, will change if you don't have any debt on your car.